Wait, and welcome to the BBC's coverage of the royal coronation of King Louis. We're very much hoping this broadcast has gone live on. Yeah, we're being told by our technical team that we're live. We're all good. It's all happy in the land, specifically in the land of Westminster Abbey right now, which is where we are, where the coronation of King Louis will be taking place. I am Dean Heathcote, your presenter for this evening, yours truly. And we've definitely got quite a series of events that are going to be taking place this evening. It's going to be a very lovely procession. There's going to be a lot of religious things involved in this, which we're going to have a great time dissecting and analysing. And we're also going to see a crown be placed on Lewis's shiny, shiny head. Um, a rather glorious head, one should say, even. Hopefully, over the course of this broadcast, we'll also have a couple of guests on here and there to talk about some specifics, as well as talk about the importance of state occasions like this, among many other things. But what we're now waiting for is the start of the procession of the king, which will be the first event of this coronation. They will come through the entrance of Westminster Abbey. In fact, you can kind of see them up ahead already, just sorting themselves out and getting prepared. And as part of this procession, we're going to be seeing a lot of different colourful faces and lots of people who are sort of part of the royal household, part of the College of Arms. We're going to see the Honourable Corps, the Gentlemen at Arms involved in this as well. You know, the people in very, very fancy uniforms and headgear. And we're also going to see His Majesty the King as well as part of that procession. But we'll point out those individuals as they sort of come through, or once they come through, that is. But while we're waiting for that to be arranged, while we're waiting for that to happen, Westminster Abbey is home right now to a wide variety of distinguished individuals and members of the community. Of course, it's open to members of the public, so if you haven't already gone down to Westminster Abbey, then feel free to do so right now. It'll be really good. It will look good for all the pictures that the royal photographers are going to be taking. You know, you can join and be part of history. Um, and of course, there's lots of distinguished individuals who are already gathered here. Admittedly, I'm very terrible with avatar recognition, but if we look over sort of to the left, we've got various peers of the realm gathered there. We've got Met Commissioner Eric on the far left, joined by. Is that Lawrence Eden? It looks very similar to Lawrence Eden, at least. He's been changing avatars for many years now. I've lost track, but we've also got the most senior Rothschilds there as well. The founder of Greggs and the Royal Automobile Club, among many other business ventures, and a former prime minister of several times, as well as the recently resigned Ofcom chairman and Donut Dev, also present. I do believe that is Ben Hathaway next to him. Again, I lost track of avatars. If that's not, it might be Jimbo. I don't remember Jimbo's avatar off the top of my head, but I'm sure the general public will correct me in political discussion very soon. Um, Alongside there, I do believe that is Matthew Ainsley sat alongside Scripted Sid, both distinguished politicians in their own right. And certainly in my top three of of Canadians of all time, if that is Ainsley, of course. Sat just ahead of him, we have, I do believe that is Margaret there as well. Um, and next to Margaret, well, Princess Margaret, I should really put honour to her name there. We have the Prince Ishmael as well. So again, very distinguished guests gathered. I'm pretty sure that's Margaret. I'm pretty sure there's no other women present in the House of Lords that would be wearing such attire. We're gonna have to change that one up. Hopefully, Lewis will change that. Anyway, on the right hand side here, again, lots more distinguished individuals. I do believe my good friend Pogzilla is also sat up there as well. We've got Starfish as well, dressed very appropriately as a in Metropolitan Police uniform, or at least some imitation of it. Don't blame him. As well as that, I'm again trying my very best to recognise other avatars here, but we also, I believe it's Micah Theobald over there. We had the Prime Minister. God, right on. I've never seen you in that uniform before. Very nice looking. But that is, of course, the Prime Minister sat there, and I do believe that's the Foreign Secretary as well. Next to him, I think that's King Master. I do believe so. I do believe that's him nodding yes, something like that. As well as other, of course, members of the cabinets gathered here. One of them's even reading the itinerary there. He's having a very good read. Somebody get him a copy of the Scotsman. Some much better read, I'll tell you that now. And of course, sat above them, there's members of the House of Commons as well up there. You can see many of my colleagues up there. It's good to see you all up there. Hope you're all having a very good evening so far. Oh, look, it's our. I wonder who that is with all those medals and a very magnificent moustache. Totally not our cameraman. Now, but that is, of course, just some of the many distinguished members gathered in the in Westminster Abbey today. And I have just been told that it is right on King Master and Reba that was sat on the front there on the right hand side. Yeah, there we go. We can see them there. Very finely dressed, might one just say. Very finely dressed. It's not it's not all the time that you see the parliamentary mob dressed out in their state attire. I do believe the procession has now begun here. Once again, being led by by the Honourable Call the Gentlemen at Arms. I do believe some of the people included in this here, bearing the royal standard, which we'll see in just a couple of moments once the procession comes through closer. We will see that the royal standard is bared by Cyprus Crusade. And we can see it just coming up through the doors in just a moment. Alongside that, we have, of course, the Orders of Chivalry and Gallantry Award holders from various chivalrous orders, of course. The College of Arms and various heralds of arms also present in the procession here, as well as another Rothschild making an appearance. There. That is, of course, the royal standard we've just mentioned. I do believe that the Lord Rothschild has just referred to the gathered British public as peasants. Certainly changing the mood a little bit there, but continuing on here, we've got the St. Edward's staff borne by Sir Chris Trenchard, the Sceptre of Cross borne by the Right Honourable Termina Plus, who is the Lord President of the Council. The Sword of Temporal Justice borne by the Lord Grafton of Kirkcaldy. The Sword of Katana, the Sword of Mercy, borne by the Duke of Atholl, which is Duck Dum Dum, our favourite American and Kentuckian. And also the Sword of Spiritual Justice, borne by the Lord Hopeton. Hopeton, yeah, which is Chief Puppet. Very good individual. Also part of this procession, we have Everton Regalgrone as the Garter Principal King of Arms, Carthusian as the Gentleman Usher of the Black Rod, and Yeet Boy as the Captain of His Majesty's Bodyguard of the Honourable Corps, the Gentlemen at Arms. Also making their way through, we have the Lord Great Chamberlain, as well as the Duke of Norfolk, who serves as the Earl Marshal, the Right Honourable Jam, who is, of course, the Lord Chancellor and Justice Secretary, there with a rose on his lapel, the Lord Epsom, who serves as the Lord High Constable of England, and the Sword of State, which is a very, very big sword, borne by the Viscount Falkland. The Sceptre of Dove, borne by the Earl of Lothian, good old TBU, we love him. And the Orb, also known as the Holy Hand Grenade, over here at the BBC, is borne by the Earl of Sandwich, which is only fitting. And St. Edward's crown is borne by its gaffer, the Lord High Steward of England. It's not the Lord High Steward, that would be Charles Stewart. Completely two very separate roles. One's a Stewart and one's a steward. Of course, His Majesty the King is here as well, joined by the Right Reverend the Lord Stewart of Hamilton, the magnificent blonde steward we've sort of just hinted towards, as well as the Right Reverend Liam Shepherd, the Assistant Bishop, and former Archbishop of Canterbury. And Captain Sophie Williams, Senior Query to the King, is also in attendance. Just to quickly finish off the very long procession here, we also had the Viscount Preston in it as Lord Steward, the Lord Ghost of Krakow as Lord Chamberlain, the Earl of Dorset as Private Secretary to the King, Sir Rohan as the Assistant Private Secretary to the King, and unknown LZDS as the Assistant Private Secretary to the King as well. So a very long procession, but it has completed, which now brings us to some more things. I will just say, by the way, that I can't hear the audio, so if there is music playing at any point, we at the BBC cannot hear it. So you're still going to be hearing my magnificent voice over it. But with the procession sorted there, we do now move on to the order of service. So there's likely going to be some kind of choir singing. In fact, yes, there is a choir singing, mostly because I have just turned up my volume. As we can see here, that's Adapted Frost, the first Secretary of State in his stately attire. Slowly making his way over to where the Prime Minister and other cabinet ministers are sat, after I think depositing some kind of item over yonder. Definitely feels like we're watching a slow motion action film at points here. The tension is very palpable. I think we can also see there another Lord Rothschild. They do seem to be multiplying by the year at this point, but that is Harold Rothschild there, bowing his head as the choir continues to sing. The Earl Lothian, good old TBU, our favourite Scotsman there, handing the item that he had been holding throughout this, the sceptre with Dove, over to, I do believe that is meant to be the Archbishop of Canterbury. Having a very deep conversation here, it seems. Didn't quite catch what CBU said there, but he said something very interesting. That much I saw. I do believe that was the orb being handed off there. Once again, the holy hand grenade that we referred to earlier. And I do believe this is the St. Edward's crown, which will be placed on Lewis's head in the coming, well, over the course of the next many few moments of this coronation. It is all the many royal items placed upon the very luxurious pillows. I wouldn't mind purchasing one myself after this coronation. We now move on. Some words, some very holy words. This is, of course, now the order of service has begun here. We will be coming up to the recognition in a little bit. While the Archbishop is speaking here, we have been told here that some information about the robe and new kit the robe and the new kit were all redone apparently or made by Ethan Ainsley of Cyprus Crusade. Unfortunately, some of it wasn't added in time for the coronation, but we'll see the robe royal and imperial robe soon. Just some information we've been given there. Very nice to know. It's very good to see the sort of the development of all the royal stuff in this community really be put on show. It's quite nice. I'm sure our viewers would agree. And certainly a lot of the thanks for a lot of the royal development goes to the sort of royal developers. I can't name all of them because I don't know all of them, but Doug Dumbledome and Whiteson and I guess Cyprus Crusade come to mind, and probably a lot of the BAF developers as well might have been involved in this. But as, of course, the Archbishop has finished some of his words there. So we will now move over to the recognition, where the Archbishop, together with the Lord Chancellor, Lord Great Chamberlain, Lord High Constable, and Earl Marshal, will go to the east side of the theatre, and after shall go to the other three sides in the order of south, west, and north. And at every of the four sides, the Archbishop shall, with a loud voice, speak to the people and the King. In the meanwhile, standing up by King Edward's chair, shall turn and show himself unto the people at every of the four sides of the theatre. I'm very much reading off the itinerary there, but that is the recognition that will be performed there. And of course, we can look forward to a little bit of fanfare as well soon. As mentioned, of course, this will repeat 4 times. This little bit of, again, recognition, hence the name, with a fanfare each time as he turns in all 4 directions. Frankly, I do feel bad for the individuals in the northwest, southwest, uh, northeast, and northwest, the other 4 directions, but it's okay. We can acknowledge them another time. I must say that robe does look big on Lewis. I know I'm very much letting an intrusive thought slip through into the commentary here, but that is a big robe. Very elegantly made, can one just say. It's very detailed. So very much congratulations and big thank you to the developer for that one. The king takes his seat once more there on the chair of estate, and now he will be the presentation of the Holy Bible comes next. So the assistant bishop will present the king with the Bible here. I've just been informed, by the way, that the garter chain that His Majesty the King is wearing apparently took 4 hours of work on its own. So yes, that is an incredibly detailed chain. So wow. Now, of course, we come to the oaths now, where the king will take the coronation oath. He's going to essentially swear that he's abiding by certain things in layman's terms here. Every single other king who's had a coronation in this community, of course, coronations haven't been a permanent fixture in this community. It's only really become a regular staple of the community's monarchy since about 2016, 17 onwards. I don't believe there's any records of coronations prior to that. But of course, since the real life coronation that occurred with Charles III, it's obviously quite nice to be able to live a very accurate Roblox one. So, coronations have come very far since the sort of Middle Ages of this community. King, of course, places his hand on the Bible that he was presented with moments earlier. Of course, you'd be very rare to see a king not promise to do these things, so do expect him to say that he's very much going to abide by this oath. That is very much within the script of this itinerary, but of course, this the oath is regarding essentially being a good king, um, governing the people according to their respective laws and customs, essentially being nice to them. There's really not too much else to say here. But now the king kneels at the chair of the state for this next oath, which is regarding the Church of England in particular. One thing we are being told by our fashion correspondent is that the Lord Dumbledome is wearing his very fashionable Elvis Presley Chinese dragon jumpsuit underneath his robe tonight. Not tonight, this evening. So very much a very special bit of attire to wear at a coronation, but very fitting nonetheless. Of course, after he has done these oaths, he will sign a copy of the oaths once it's presented by the Lord Chamberlain, and that will be joined with the choir singing as that is done. Also, I know we do keep talking about the development here, but that is a magnificent item there. Of course, that is a Bible that he is holding, and it is very magnificently developed. The craftsmanship on that symbol is very good. So, again, we're going to keep saying this throughout the broadcast, but that is a very well made piece of a very well made item in any case. So, again, kudos to the developer on that. This will be, of course, the final oath that he reads out here, where he will declare that he is a faithful Protestant, which for Lewis to declare that, quite surprising, but Who knows? You know what? Yeah, there you go. He said it. One other additional detail I have noticed here is that the chair of estate has been marked with Lewis's new cipher. That, of course, was commissioned at the start of his reign. A very elegant LR there, which that is probably the fanciest cipher I have seen in a while. So I do not know who at the College of Arms designed that one, but whoever it was, he did a very good job. That is a very nice looking cipher. And of course, the Lord Chamberlain approaches now, and the king will sign the oaths in writing. And of course, the choir will be singing as well. The king now moves over to the altar, I believe. And again, just a bit of a close-up shot there of all the various swords, scepters, and the St. Edward's crown as well. And again, a very pretty shot there of His Majesty the King and accompanying bishops. This is very much the part where I will welcome a member of the public to send a direct message if they would like, explaining the importance of the chair that is behind His Majesty the King here and the stone below it. As I do believe that is the stone of Scone, something like that, or Scone, depending on which part of the country you come from, at least. I'm sure our favourite Scotsman will explain how important it is to Scotland, that stone. But that is, of course, if he gets the time to, as he is, of course, participating in tonight's events. On the contrary to the member of the public who has just sent a message in here, the stone of Scone has not been stolen. I mean, it has been in the past. In the real world, it was actually stolen at one point. I think it was by some protesters, if I remember correctly. It was by I think it was by some activists, something like that. Feel free to correct me on that, whoever would like to. That is, of course, the chair that is behind Lewis here is the coronation chair, also known as St. Edward's chair, or King Edward's chair. Lots of Edward-related items in this coronation, but it is an ancient wooden chair that has been used since forever, essentially, since 1308, apparently. It's been used at every single coronation of English and British monarchs at Westminster Abbey. We're definitely receiving some protests from the Alba group saying that the stone belongs to Scotland, and so it was stolen by the English, which, quite frankly, that is just some Scottish cope. But continuing on with the coronation details here, the king, of course, was kneeling before the altar there, and he will now return to the chair of estate and resume his seat. The archbishop will then go before the altar himself, and all will stand in just a moment for the collect. Another fun fact we've just had about the coronation chair is that it was apparently subject to an attempted Actually, yeah, it was to a bomb attack thought to have been organised by the suffragettes. Apparently, a corner of the chair was broken off in the explosion. Hmm. And apparently, none of the 70 people in the abbey at the time were injured, and the coronation chair was faithfully restored afterwards. Very interesting. I did not know about that. That's actually new to me. So, thank you very much for that. That's a good fact. I did apparently accidentally call Adapted Frost Termina at some point. My apologies. I'm pretty sure. Maybe you're filling in for Termina. I don't know. I was reading off the itinerary. We've also just had confirmation here that the Stone of Scone was stolen by some Scottish nationalist students from the University of Glasgow, apparently, at some point in time. So, again, a nice little tidbit of history. Thankfully, due to Roblox limitations, it would be rather impossible to steal the stone on this platform. Although, if someone wants to, if someone's going to give themselves building tools after this and move the stone out of position, then please do it after the coronation and not during. That is not an invitation. So now everyone will be standing for the collect here. Again, a bit more religious ceremony as part of what is a very religious event. Um, and of course, the Prime Minister is now stood here. The Right Honourable, the Right On. Been waiting ages to say that, but he is the Prime Minister as of the most recent election, and he is now reading from the Epistle to the Romans. I can already hear Gustav Rhodes in my ear telling me I've mispronounced that somehow. In terms of prime ministers who have participated in the in coronations, I should say that there's only obviously a handful that have ever participated in these kind of events. Um, I'm trying to think of prime ministers who have. If you can name a prime minister that has performed one of these readings in a coronation, feel free to mention it. Or if you are a prime minister who participated, feel free to boast about it now in political discussion. Because there really aren't that many monarchs that did that. I do believe Alan Halverson is one of them. I think he did it for Edward. He would have done either him or someone. Of course, the right on joins that club of individuals. And we're also being told that our favourite Scotsman, the Earl of Lothian, the British Union, has also done it himself at some point. And apparently, the very His Majesty the King, who is here and is being coronated today himself, also did it for Joseph. He read out the letter to the Romans, or at least a reading. So very nice. And now he's in the he's the one being I can't speak English. He's the one getting a crown on his head, was what I meant to say. Of course, following this little bit of choir singing, the assistant bishop will be reading the gospel, followed by some more choir singing. Frankly, I do think the choir is going to need a bit of a pay rise after this. Right on, if you can make some space in your budget for that, be much appreciated. Another development detail that our cameraman is picking up here is the lighting in the abbey is phenomenal with the light shining through. That is a very majestic shot. And of course, again, the assistant bishop, sorry, is now reading the gospel. While he does so, we'll have the camera pan around a little bit and explore. Of course, the assistant bishop here being Charles Stewart, a very distinguished member of the Church of England in this community. And also in my top three Scottish people in this community. In terms of his history in the community, he is a veteran statesman, a member of the House of Lords, and a member of this government as the Secretary of State for the Cabinet Office right now. But in addition to all that, those political positions and history, he's a very religious man, and here he is performing a very religious duty. What we will do quickly is, as this goes on, the royal standard, which is being borne by Cyprus Crusade, which I don't know if our cameraman will be able to find that, but for our cameraman's notice, it's the one that's got the royal flag. Yes, that one. The royal standard that is borne by him, very nice looking. Just thought I'd point that out. He has, of course, Mr. Crusade here, his own chest of medals, a Canadian medal rack apparently, and lots of letters that I don't understand. But he's got the Star of Military Valor apparently, which, I mean, that is just a lot of medals. I mean, if anybody in the community would like to use their time this evening, feel free to try and calculate and find out who in this community has the most medals, or at least the medal rack that is worth the most. In fact, actually, look at the coronation and find the person who has the most medals. That is your challenge. I'm not sure who that would be, actually. It might be Ishmael, but he's not wearing his medals, I don't think. Probably up there, though. Be Lewis himself, in fact, now that I think about it. Lewis himself probably has a lot of medals. We are being told, apparently, it's without a doubt Ishmael. That is what one of our viewers here is saying. Being told that apparently Sid Mountbatten has the record, it probably has the record, but he's obviously not in attendance. But that would make sense. Probably gave half those medals to himself. Kidding. Please don't shoot me, Sid. Of course, while the choir sings here, before we reach the sermon, which will be preached by the Archbishop of Canterbury, we'll just have a look at again the College of Arms gentlemen gathered here. I have always thought that the uniform they wear is odd, but it really does work here somehow. It's very nice looking, like in hindsight. And now, of course, the Archbishop will deliver, as mentioned, a sermon. We'll keep the camera focused on him as we sort of talk over this, as of course this is a event in that I'm the one talking over it, and we're very much reading text on the screen here. But without ruining the immersion, we'll talk a little bit over it here. Talking about the Archbishop himself, actually, he is the successor to Liam Shepherd, who is the longest serving Archbishop in community history. He's in the what I have now coined the 1,000-day club, which is individuals who have served in their respective position for over 1,000 days. So he's very much succeeding and filling some very big boots, some very big shoes. I'm being told to not to diss the uniform of the College of Arms. I greatly apologise. I respect you lot immensely. Please do not take away my coat of arms. um, but focusing again here on Philip, someone who has been in the Church of England for quite a bit of time himself now. But he is, of course, now the Archbishop, and this is, I believe, his first major role in his tenure as Archbishop, being the Archbishop during the coronation of a new monarch in this community. So, definitely one of the biggest events and happenings that a Archbishop can ever attend or be part of. So, I'm sure he's definitely very happy about that. I'm going to be taken to a chivalric court after this, which, yeah, still better than the Ministry of Justice. Of course, after the Archbishop is finished here, we will then move over to the anointing. Now, the anointing, once I believe that is the part where I don't think that's the part where the canopy goes up. At least I like to call it the canopy. If it is the part where the canopy comes up, then of course we can't film that bit. That's the bit where the camera sort of turns away, or at least we don't put the camera under the canopy. It's the very religious part. But we it is apparently that bit. I've just been told, yes. I was looking through the itinerary and trying to figure out when that bit comes up. So, of course, when that canopy does come up, the camera won't be intervening in it. The camera has just looked at some of my favourite individuals in the Coronation community here, the various religious figures from across the community. Now, for those who have been in the community for quite some time, they will remember that I struggled immensely trying to pronounce the various titles of these individuals gathered here. Now, I have no intention of trying to go through that once again, but we're not going to attempt to. Now, we are being told actually that when the canopy does go up, it will not be a simple case of beetles this time. It will actually be an individual holding up the canopy for the first time in coronation history. So we will actually be able to see that. But of course, that's in the moments to come. It's not quite yet. Of course, the choir continues to sing here as our camera is panning around to the members of the public, members of the House of Commons, members of the Lords that are gathered and in attendance. Also, members, of course, of the emergency services are also gathered here, and members of the British Armed Forces. A couple of recognisable faces up there. My good friend Bushbury up there. Hello, Bush. And I do believe that's I do believe that's also the Director General of this very broadcaster up there as well. And of course, the assistant bishop now moves over. Do you believe that is the Archbishop will be receiving the ampulla here? Now, once again, I will turn to our very knowledgeable viewers here to divulge what the ampulla is, because you can very, very much assume here that I do not know what it is. But it looks like a very fancy object in any case. Apparently, as explained by, again, one of our much more knowledgeable viewers here and our expert in the field, the little dove item, which you can, of course, see on your screens there, is the ampulla in question, which contains the blessed oil used in the consecration section. It reminds the king of his baptism, and it's right now, the part that we are seeing is the part where it's being blessed by the archbishop. It is a very nice animation. That caught me off guard there. That was a very smooth animation of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, the Trinity, the cross motion. I'm going to be scolded for messing that up, but that's okay because now, after the blessing of that sort of holy oil, the king will now be experiencing that very sort of personal moment. He has now been divested of the robe of state by the Lord Great Chamberlain, and he will now move to sit in the coronation chair. Now we do actually get to see what the king's wearing here now, which is a very interesting attire. I don't believe we've seen a monarch wear that before in these coronations. That seems to be a new addition as well. I'll let, again, an expert in the field confirm that. I don't believe we saw that one at Alex's coronation. So, very interesting indeed. But of course, this is the part where the what do you call it, the canopy, as I will just refer to it as, will be coming up, I think, in just a short moment, because Zadok the priest is going to be playing as well. And there we go. The item has been put up there. I believe that was an item being dropped. That was very interesting. So that was not B-tools in, or no building tools used for that. But the canopy has gone up, and of course this is a very holy moment, so the camera will not show a full view of this. This is a very personal moment for the king. We'll show it from afar, I guess, but we can't get very up close and personal. Instead, we'll have Zadok the priest playing there on behalf, by the choir. They're the ones singing it, after all. And of course, the king is being anointed with holy oil on the hands, the breast, head. Of course, we continue here to just show the many distinguished guests gathered as the anointing is performed. So the anointing screen will then be removed in a moment. It will come down following that in just a couple moments, of course. There it is. Again, a very nice bit of kit there to turn it into an item. Another remarkable development done by the sort of royal development team. The king will now then kneel before the altar, which again, we're not really showing this bit yet. To be fair, I don't actually know which bit we're meant to then begin showing the king again, but I presume we're in the clear here. Or maybe not. We'll be on the safe side, even if it's Roblox. Now I think we'll be now allowed to show the king. We are good now. The most holiest part, if one could call it that, of the coronation is done there. We are now able to sort of show him kneeling before the altar, before the archbishop. Following this will be the investiture and the crowning, which, I mean, if you are familiar with coronations of any country, that's the bit where the crown lands on his head. Or at least at some point during that part. It's not instant. It's never instant. Of course, the king rises now and will be vested with the super tunica, which, oh wow, that is dapper. It's definitely new. Once again, a new piece of gear for coronations like this and state occasions like this, which looks fantastic. I mean, look at the detail on that. And the king looks happy about it. Of course, the king is now sat back in the coronation chair, and the Viscount Falkland, the head of the civil service as well, Charles Berkeley, will exchange the Sword of State for the jeweled Sword of Offering. It's delivered to the Archbishop, who will now say a few words. A very mighty sword, can one just say. I mean, I do like me some legendary swords in history. I mean, there's Excalibur and Caliburn, but the Sword of State should be up there. Very, very lovely looking sword. And it does, I don't know whether or not that's a new sword. Um, Somebody might be able to correct me, but that sword looks a little bit different to the previous ones we've had in coronations. I don't know whether or not they've redone the swords at all, but it looks a bit different to me. Maybe I could be wrong. It has been a while since the last coronation. Of course, the sword is placed down there, and another sword is taken here. To believe this is the jeweled sword of offering, as mentioned. The other sword, by the way, it's not the sword of state. Into the king's hands. And of course, a few very holy words will be read out here. The king is going to be holding various objects throughout this part. He will receive the imperial robe, apparently, as well at some point. But we won't spoil that yet. I mean, I've just spoiled it, but we'll get there. The swords detailing, we are just having that noted by our analysts. The detailing on the dual sword of offering, if we get a really good close up here, is wow. I mean, even the wow, that is detailed. Again, a round of applause for the royal developers because that seems new to me. That just, or maybe it's always been like that. I don't know, but that is a very nice looking sword. And the detailing is so tiny yet precise, I think, is also just something to mention. Of course, the king now stands and will offer the sword at the altar, and it will, of course, be returned to the Viscount Falkland. He has, of course, returned it there, and the king will now resume his seat on the coronation chair. And there we go. That is the imperial robe, I believe, that has just been put on him, or at least this the royal robe is what it's being referred to as on the itinerary. Um, of course, being referred to as the imperial robe here by the archbishop. Again, very nice looking. That is new. Another new sort of object that has been created by the royal development team. If we can get some close-ups of this robe, again, very much complements what the king is wearing here with the super tunica. Insane detailing on the sort of on there as well. Apparently, there's 100 different robes. I honestly, it's the robe. It is apparently the robe royal. That is what it's being called. Apparently, it's not the imperial robe. There's a lot of robes. I think we're learning that tonight about the British monarchy. There's a lot of different robes, and here we go. The king is now being handed the holy hand grenade, also known by its official title of the orb. Um, of course, there's quite a lot of legends that surrounds the holy hand grenade, also known officially as the orb. Lots of legend, mostly made up by yours truly, but reportedly contains uranium. Of course, the archbishop takes the orb now and returns it to the altar, and then the scepter with cross and the rod with dove will be brought from the altar and delivered to the king's right hand. And there it is. Very nice looking scepter, that one. Very, very detailed again as well. I mean, if we just take a nice look at that, very elegant. Detailing, very, very nice. We're going to be hearing a lot of compliments here just from me towards the development team for this coronation and just the royal household in general. And we have been told that this has been redone for this coronation. So this is a new object, seeing its first use at a coronation. And it's very magnificent looking. And we've got the other one as well here, another scepter, a scepter with dove, a rod with dove being brought over here, another magnificent looking one. Both redone apparently ahead of this coronation. Looking very, very good. Following this, we will then get to the final object, the object we're all kind of here to see. And it will be the one where's the St. Edward's crown. But no spoilers yet. We're going to witness that in just a couple of moments. And over the Archbishop goes to retrieve St. Edward's crown, which is certainly the highlight of this event. I'm not sure if the crown is new, but it's very nice looking in any case. A very important crown. History of the British monarchy. In that, it's also the symbol that appears on the government coat of arms and such. So, it's a very important crown. Of course, the Archbishop's now making his way over to the King. This is the part we've all been waiting for. This is the part it's all about. And the crown is placed atop Lewis's head. God save the King. And of course, at this moment, pretty much everybody's going to be standing up. Or at least they're going to be celebrating. The bells are now ringing, the bells of the Abbey. And one thing that should be noted is that the princes and princesses and the peers and peeresses of the realm will put on their coronets and caps, and the kings of arms will put their crowns on. So as we can see here, they've put on those pieces of headgear, very fancy looking as well. It's appear the Prince Ishmael's had a bit of a wardrobe malfunction. Very important moment there. And we are being told that the peers' coronets and the King of Arms crowns were redone as well recently. So those are also new assets being used for this coronation. I'm also being told apparently the crown used in the coat of arms is the Tudor crown. I stand corrected. Of course, it would be the government communication service that tell me that. Of course, that is the acclamation ceasing there, and the Archbishop will continue to say a few more words. I will be silent for just a moment here, as one must quickly attend to some earthly matters, but do enjoy the Archbishop's words. course, the Archbishop is still speaking here. I have indeed also returned, if that hasn't been obvious enough. Of course, following this, the enthroning and the homage or homage, depending on what kind of person you are and however you want to pronounce it, we're all free to mispronounce things if we'd like to. We'll follow this part. I do believe that is actually the part that's about to follow right now. Of course, the king has been enthroned, and he'll be escorted by the Archbishop of Canterbury, as is happening right now, surrounded by the great officers of state that we have mentioned, of course, over the course of this broadcast. He will then make his way over to one of the chairs here. I don't know if that chair has a particular importance. I will again leave it to our experts here to inform on what that chair is called and how important it is to the coronation proceedings. But the king is sat upon it right now, and he will be in it for quite a bit now. I think for pretty much the remainder of this, in fact. Of course, the Archbishop is now kneeling before the king, or he will be in a second. Apparently, it's the chair of estate from the Buckingham Palace throne room. How much does it cost to move that thing, I wonder, from Buckingham Palace and to here and back? Must, I wonder how much they quote the contractors for that. Of course, during this part, members of the royal family, by order of precedence, will kneel before the king and make a pledge to His Majesty the King, as well as the Duke of Norfolk will also do that as well himself. So we will be seeing that in the following moments once the Archbishop has said his piece here. Being told apparently the quote to move that chair is about £70,000, give or take. Oof. Might need some Eastern Europeans to deal with that one. I'm surprised they didn't add on the title of King of the Seven Kingdoms, the Rhoynar, the Andals, and the First Men, and the other ones. What's the other titles that the king in Game of Thrones has? Oh, I have no idea. I've forgotten. Of course, the Prince Ishmael here will now make his sort of pledge of fealty to His Majesty the King. Just like to say, the BBC, rather me, I do apologise to our Greek and Romanian bishops gathered, who may be offended at my previous comment regarding Eastern European contractors. I get along with them very well. I appreciate them. Of course, the Princess Margaret now approaches. So you take to make her pledge of fealty to His Majesty the King. Do you believe that seems to be Jewish Stevie Wonder in the backgrounds there, next to the First Secretary of State and Home Secretary? And that is, of course, Princess Margaret making her pledge. Next, I believe this is the Duke of Norfolk now, who will now kneel and make his pledge to His Majesty the King. and that is his pledge done. Being told apparently it is Nissim Black who is gathered with the government over there. Good to see him in attendance. Hope he's doing well. Oh, he's moving away now. Oh, there he is. Still. Anyway. Bit of fanfare. Now, although this is, of course, just Roblox, feel free to join me here in saying the next few words that we are all apparently meant to respond with. So, if you really want to get into character, feel free to do so now. And say it with me. God save King Louis. Long live King Louis. May the king live forever. Then again, I'm pretty sure the I do believe King went for a bit of a jump there. He of course now moves back towards the altar, where the Archbishop will introduce the Lord's Prayer, followed by the blessing. Apparently, the king will then be wearing the imperial robe in a moment, so we will actually see that imperial robe in action. I wonder what it looks like. There's so many different robes. Dread to think how big the king's closet is. And then again, this is King Louis. Doesn't really need the closet anymore, does he? Came out a long time ago. We're being told a little bit of information about the imperial robe. Actually, being told that it has been redesigned. And normally, I mean, we won't spoil too much. Actually, we'll let you, our viewers, enjoy it just as much as we will here at the BBC. But it's been very specially crafted with certain inspiration in mind. Oh, 1 second. Do you believe it is continuing there? I quickly lost my itinerary there, but has, of course, moved over to the chapel of St. Edward's to exchange his crown for the the St. Edward's crown for the imperial state crown. So we'll hopefully see him in just a moment, and we'll see that garb we've been talking about, the robe, rather. So we'll hopefully be seeing that in a moment, once the choir has done its singing here. Of course, the Archbishop forming up there alongside all the many officials we saw earlier, preparing for the procession that will lead out of Westminster Abbey. There will be a parade by the many regiments and services of the British Armed Forces following this. However, that will be presented by Adrian Williams as opposed to me, mostly because, well, the the bar calls for me. But him being an expert in much more things than the military, he'll certainly be more entertaining for that section than I ever could. Of course, the choir continues here as we look at the peers of the realm still gathered before us. Of course, the choir has finished there, and the choir will now sing in just a moment, as the king will, I believe, show himself once more in just a moment. They will sing the national anthem, and then a couple of other words. And we'll be seeing that amazing new imperial robe. That will probably be the highlight of everything we see tonight. Procession, of course, now begins to leave Westminster Abbey. The king dressed in imperial robe, which is inspired off George III. That is the look that it's taken its inspiration from. Traditionally, the robe is red. This one is blue, and it looks very beautiful. And that is the series of events here at Westminster Abbey coming to a close. The king is crowned. He leaves the abbey with a very nice outfit on and a very nice crown atop his head. Of course, this will be followed by a parade of the many regiments and services of the British Armed Forces. That will be presented by Adrian Williams in just the coming minutes. There might be a little bit of a wait here and gap, but that will be presented separately. Of course, we can see the very man himself who will be taking over in just a moment over there. But as the bar is calling for me, and it's not the kind of bar where you preach to a judge, this has been the BBC's coverage of the Westminster Abbey side of the coronation events and proceedings and processions and such. I've been your presenter, Dean R. Heathcote. From me, at least, I wish you all good night and bid you all farewell. But I pass the torch now over to Adrian Williams for the more military side of matters. Take it away, Adrian.
Thank you very much, Dean. Well, we shall just be bringing the cameras to a close here from Westminster Abbey, where we'll be moving down to London District. Again, big thank you to Dean, of course, for his coverage of events so far. So, yeah, our cameras are just travelling down to London District at the meantime, but what a spectacle that was. Really, that was quite something. And all the development stuff we've seen this coronation as well has been quite spectacular indeed. In fact, I've been to many coronations myself as a long, standing member of the armed forces for much of my career up until about 2 years of service across 2 regiments, both the Household Cavalry and the Grenadier Guards as such. So I have quite a fair amount of experience, as you will, with these sort of ceremonies, having done, I think, 2 or 3 coronations myself. But we're just waiting here to get our cameras into London District. There seems to be some issues with a lake for some reason. I'm not sure why everybody keeps spawning in a lake, but that was quite the spectacle indeed. So we will just try and get our cameras sorted shortly. So yes, hopefully that should all be done. But what a spectacle indeed. I mean, that imperial robe there at the end was quite something, I think, for everyone watching. I, of course, was watching up with my fellow colleagues across the House of Commons. We are still waiting for cameras within London District. Our camera crew is taking some time to set up, as it were. So just please do bear with. We will get our cameras as soon as possible. But yeah, that was quite something, to say the least. And certainly we saw some military involvement within that initial sort of side of things with the the regard to that sort of thing with the Grenadier Guards and gentlemen at arms present. It is quite laggy, I will say, in London District, just to let you know. But we will be cutting our cameras over to London District very shortly. We have I've just made my way over to the press tent. So as you can see, I am here right in front of Buckingham Palace behind me and the gardens of it. And this is where we shall be delivering you coverage of the parade itself from here, which will come all the way up the Mall and make its way up to the gardens of Buckingham Palace, which you can see behind me, where previous coronations have gone up to. And of course there was the Jubilee Parade back in November for King Alexander, which I provided coverage for, which also followed a very similar pattern indeed, and was a spectacle of its own, really, with the stage and everything. But this is where we shall be delivering our coverage from today, so similar sort of setup. But yes, we shall slowly make our way over to have a look at things when they kick off. I'm still aware the troops are still setting up, which of course, as any part of any procession, is one of the most vital parts to make sure everybody's in place. And I think it was King Edward's coronation when everybody joined, and then the floor disappeared beneath everybody, so there was a slight delay on that. But so far today, things seem to be running a little bit more smoothly, which is great. Quite frankly, I think we're certainly up for a very promising parade as well. And we do have the return of the Household Cavalry, which is one of those two regiments I've served in, having been recommissioned earlier this week with their first recruitment on Monday, and training ongoing throughout the week in preparation for today. So this will mark their first sort of state event since being recommissioned, where they will appear in their tunics from the lifeguards and the Blues and Royals, I myself having been a former lifeguard, and we will see them appear with the Household Cavalry Mounted Regiment making its way up, providing the mounted escort to the King, and of course all the other regiments of the British Army and the branches of the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy present as well, to sort of complete the lineup of the British Armed Forces procession. We do have none other than Doug Dunlone in the background, having just made his way over from the Westminster Abbey. So this is sort of the, I suppose, invited guests section, I suppose, with the press tent and so on. But we will slowly pan our cameras upwards and send our drone out to see if we can find any troops gathering around. As you can see, we do have a rather laggy London district. That is partly due to the absolute sheer scale that this procession will have. But we can see, we of course have the Mall straight ahead, with the various parks either side. Of course, Wellington Barracks somewhere off in that direction, the home of Nijmegen and Company from the Grenadier Guards, another place I have, of course, served in throughout my career in the armed forces. And our drone is very, very slowly making its way over to the procession. I suppose it's more of a helicopter we've switched over to this altitude, but we will pass by various landmarks down the Mall, of course, including St James's Palace, where the proclamation and accession council met to proclaim King Louis as the king, following his accession up to the throne recently. So we will be passing by that. That's just coming up to the left. We've got Clarence House there, where you can see the sentry box for the guards to mount is just behind that gate, and of course St James's Palace the other side of that. But yes, the Mall will be where the main procession will make its way down. There is of course also Horse Guards Parade in the distance. We can't quite see it, but there's also Admiralty House, of course, over there, which was the former sort of headquarters of the Royal Navy many a year ago. That sort of no longer serves that purpose. It's more of just a generic government building. Fun fact, during the 1990s, under the premiership of who was it? John Major. The cabinet was meeting in Downing Street at the time, and an IRA mortar went off, damaging parts of Downing Street, and I do believe they had to hold various cabinet meetings and discussions in Admiralty House in the meantime. Of course, Downing Street not being too far away, being located over in that direction somewhere, not quite fully loaded in. But our cameras are making its way down very, very slowly to a increasingly large lineup of troops and the likes from the various branches of the British Armed Forces. So we will slowly go over and have a look and see who we've got over here. I believe that is none other than the Lord Ghost, who is of course the commanding officer of the Grenadier Guards, as a colonel mounting his trusty steed there at the front, who will be giving the commands for the procession to march off from the centre. And he is slowly making his way forwards. Leading from the front, we have the Royal Air Force contingent, led by Aaron Lydford, with of course the various airmen and airwomen from across the Air Force making their way past the camera. And we do have the Parachute Regiment, marking the start of the British Army's contingent as well, coming up behind the Royal Air Force, with the standard, of course, of the Parachute Regiment being heralded there, which of course contains all the battle honours of the regiment, which was founded within 1942, I do believe, during the Second World War, where it was famously deployed in Normandy for D-Day, and subsequently you had the Operation Market Garden, a very infamous World War II operation that happened within the Netherlands. Now, following the Parachute Regiment, we have the King's Royal Hussars, one of two of the British Army's armoured regiments, again with the standard bearer at the front, and the servicemen and women in their iconic purpley trousers. There's probably maroon, I suppose. I don't know. There's probably someone with a more specific coloration to that than I have. Following on from them, which ends the British Army contingent, or the main British Army contingent, we have the Royal Navy, of course, with their standard bearer as well. The British Armed Forces naval protection, and they guard the shores of the United Kingdom and police the oceans. So from various ships coming along, and followed by them will be the Royal Marines, who of course do serve as the amphibious specialised infantry arm of the Royal Navy. They are somewhat their distinct own identity, but they are attached to the Royal Navy and do come under that banner. And they are some of Britain's most elite soldiers. Not quite special forces, but they're not far off. Same with the Parachute Regiment as well. They're pretty elite as well. But there's a lovely rack of medals on that sergeant up there at the front. And they're slowly making their way forwards. Again, it is rather laggy due to the absolute size of this parade. Yes, that is the Royal Marines indeed. A very long-serving part of the Royal Navy with much distinguished history. Following them is the Grenadier Guards, led by my good friend Captain Sophie Williams, I do believe, with a lovely rack of medals there. So yes, that is another Williams. And we do have the rest of my old regiments, the Grenadier Guards. I believe that is Dragged Fork at the front right there, I do believe, who is of course a company sergeant major for King's Company, and also serves as the current deputy governor of the Falkland Islands. And they are slowly making their way forwards. Again, the sort of pinnacle of the British Army's ceremonial arm for quite a long time, up until the Household Cavalry was recommissioned. Of course, they now challenge that, and also the Regimental Sergeant Major Edward Molyneux at the back. Following him is, I believe, Second Lieutenant John Killen from the Life Guards, leading the Household Cavalry, providing the royal escort for His Majesty the King, who is, of course, now returning from Westminster Abbey, with the Life Guards at the front and the Blues and Royals in the rear. Now, John Killen was, of course, also in the Grenadier Guards up until recently, having been then retiring some months ago, and now coming back to the Household Cavalry. Now, here we have the vehicle itself, containing His Majesty the King, being driven by a Warrant Officer Class 1 from the King's Royal Hussars, being flanked by none other than the commanding officer, Edward Dalby, who is a long-serving member of the regiment and previously was the commanding officer for the Rifles Regiment, the King's Royal Hussars and the Household Cavalry. He was the last previous commanding officer of the Household Cavalry, overseeing its transition into the King's Royal Hussars. Also alongside him is a regimental corporal major, Mr. Sett, a very well-known figure from anyone who served in the Household Cavalry, very iconic man who has served in pretty much every iteration of the Household Cavalry over the years. Now following them is the Blues and Royals, and behind them is another vehicle containing some various royals as well. So that is the procession as it slowly makes its way up the mount, and it is very long indeed. I believe the front of the procession is already making its way up to Buckingham Palace, but you can just really get a sense for the scale of that parade. I don't even know if I've seen anything quite like it, but I've seen some long parades, but I'm not sure about any that quite make it all the way up the mall. We can see the Royal Marines just sort of past St James Palace, which is located over in that direction, in Clarence House and everything. And we will just allow our helicopters to really capture the scale of this procession as it makes its way over to Buckingham Palace, of course, with the Lord Ghost already leading on his horse, the Royal Air Force behind him, round the corner. That has a proper name, but I'm going to call it the roundabout for now, so I do apologise if I've angered anybody by calling that a roundabout. But we are coming up to Buckingham Palace, where they will come through the gate off to the right there, and they will then peel off behind through that sort of archway there and come out round the back into the gardens of Buckingham Palace near Station. There's also some cannons there where a royal salute will be given by the King's Royal Hussars. And we have the March of the Grenadier Guards playing in the background as well by the invisible bands, of course, from the various units of the military. And we have them now coming through the gate from the front of the procession. We will try and capture as much of it coming in as we can. Of course, a very long procession indeed, which we can now see the King's Royal Hussars following the Royal Air Force, with the rest of the procession going back a long way with the sort of royal contingent with the Household Cavalry and His Majesty the King and the various other royals making its way past Clarence House currently. And as we lower our cameras, we get quite a nice view of the... oh, we've gone into a building. We've got a nice view of the procession coming up the mall there, where it will then enter the Buckingham Palace gates from the side there, with the parachute regiment trailing behind the Royal Air Force. Sorry, I think I called them the King's Royal Hussars earlier. Right, the drone it's not incredibly clear, okay? The King's Royal Hussars is behind them. They're led over there somewhere. With their iconic marine trousers. And the Royal Navy now rounding the corner there, of course, with the Royal Marines behind them. The Royal Navy, of course, being the senior service, having originating back to the 1500s, I do believe, and the Royal Marines, I think from 1663, if I recall correctly. And of course, the Grenadier Guards and the Life Guards and the Blues and Royals all also being very, very senior and old regiments. Now, the Blues and Royals is actually two different regiments that were merged together within the 1960s when they were amalgamated to sort of bring down the size of the military in an effort to sort of descale, I suppose you could say. But there we go. And now coming along, we have the Royal Marines at the front there, and the back rear of the Royal Navy making its way into Buckingham Palace. We also, of course, have members of the public watching from the other side of those fences there, and the army with the King's Royal Hussars and Parachute Regiment ahead of them now making their way into the gardens. The Royal Air Force are probably already there by now. And we'll pan our cameras back over. Now we can see the Household Cavalry in the background there, slowly making its way forward, and the Grenadier Guards, of course, following the Royal Marines with Sophie Williams leading the charge there. Now the Williams are quite an active family within the Grenadier Guards, with, of course, Elijah Williams, one of the main figures of the family, as it were, having previously commanded the regiment for quite some time, until his departure shortly after the coronation of King Edward, which I was involved in as a colour sergeant at the time, which was also not long before my own retirement from the armed forces and my sort of career into media with Williams Media at the time it was. Oh, I think I worked for ABC News as well before then as well, but yeah, all around the time of King Edward's coronation, which was back in July 2024, I do believe, so almost 2 years ago. But yeah, the Grenadier Guards making their way through the gates there. Again, the most senior regiments of foot, which is why they have on their tunics, let's see if we can find an example somewhere. There we go. They have one singular button equally spaced on their tunics. Now in real life there are, of course, the other Foot Guards regiments, and those buttons are clumped in order of seniority. So the Coldstream Guards have 2 buttons together, a Scots Guards 3, and so on and so forth. Now, long behind them is, of course, the Royal sort of escort with the various horses from the Household Cavalry, from the Life Guards and the Blues and Royals, respectively. And they really are quite impressive indeed, because this has all been done within a week. They were only commissioned this earlier, literally about a week ago, and they've had a week to rehearse and put it all together, so that is quite something. Rehearsals usually do go on for a lot longer than that. I think that is also one of these officers somewhere at the back is none other than Captain Emoji Law. But yes, they are the Household Cavalry with the royal vehicles, of course, containing His Majesty the King there. We can just get a glimpse of him. He's now in his Royal Navy uniform, in the back of the royal car, making his way past, which is, of course, a lovely Bentley, for anybody who likes their cars. And yeah, all the troopers and corporals of horses within the Household Cavalry and the Life Guards making their way past, and of course the royal vehicle with the commanding officer on our side, Edward Dalby, and Mr. Sett on the other side, Regimental Corporal Major. The Blues and Royals following them, of course, with all their various ranks. Now, interestingly, the Household Cavalry have their own sort of weird ranks. Instead of sergeants, they have corporals of horse, so it can be quite confusing. And of course we can see Prince Ishmael on the back of that Rolls Royce there. Now he was at one point a commanding officer of the Household Cavalry as well. That is where he sort of originated from and went up the officer ranks from there before, but going on to become the Chief of General Staff and now the Chief of Defence Staff, where he would then later join the royal family, as having previously just gone simply by Ishmael, then Ishmael Wimbledon and Ishmael Mountbatten before becoming a Wellesley and joining the Wellesley family. Now we can see King Alexander's royal cipher is still very much present on the gates here at Buckingham Palace. We're just going to make our way through the main gate where the royal sort of escort will make its way through. Of course, the rest of the parade having gone through the side gates, but this procession here, the Life Guards will peel off to the right, and His Majesty the King will head through into the courtyard, as if you will, where he will then disembark from the vehicle and make his way to meet the British Armed Forces, who should have assembled the other side of Buckingham Palace. They're driving through the gate like so, and the Blues and Royals will be making their way there. Now we're just going to bring our helicopter, or drone rather, over Buckingham Palace, where the royal vehicle is now making its way into the sort of little glassed area here, where he will then disembark and will be met by an entourage of various lords and so on. I believe that is Dean Heathcote as well in the background, who is... Oh no, that's not Dean Heathcote, that's somebody else. I was just going to say, I thought he was off at the bar. But yeah, there we go, they are disembarking, and we will bring our cameras over, where we should be met with a lovely sight of all of the British Armed Forces lined up, already there waiting for the king. Now we have all the standard bearers who've been very neatly arranged at the front there, with Lord Ghost in front of them, of course, the Grenadier Guards over this side, Royal Marines behind them, then the King's Royal Hussars in the middle, and the Royal Navy behind them. On the left we have the Parachute Regiment and the Royal Air Force. Now a right dress will be given. Now this is how the various soldiers will then take their spacings. As you can see, their eyes will go to the right, and they must estimate that they have one arm's width between them and the man or woman to their right. And this is entirely done by eye, so it is quite a coordinated effort, and has been the bane of many drill instructors' lives, such as myself in the past. But it is the King's Royal Hussars seem to be getting on quite well. I'm not sure what's going on in the Royal Marines. I think they've gone a bit over too much. The Grenadier Guards, of course, being on point there, this being their sort of main duty being drills. They are very much well versed in the matter, and of course the regimental Sergeant Major Edward Molyneux there checking the spacings. He will be very picky with that indeed, of course, as the sort of senior foot drill regiment of the British Armed Forces. But of course all the others maintaining a very high standard as well. The King's Royal Hussars looking very neat there, and the Royal Air Force as well. Some of them are sort of still facing all sorts of directions. Parachute Regiment as well, looking pretty good as well. So very, very professional indeed. And now we will await the royal party to make their way out of the rear of Buckingham Palace. They will then be commanded to eyes front by Lord Ghost, where the eyes will snap back sharply to the front, meaning they've concluded taking their dressings and so on. And we can have a nice look at some of these standards here as well. Now these are very important to the identities of the various regiments and services. They will generally contain their battle honours. Now as the Royal Air Force here have just one standard, and the same for the Royal Navy for their respective services. There's no sort of battle honours on there, but we can see the Royal Marines have theirs as well, and with some very nice the things that hold them. Can't remember what they're called, but those things. We have the Grenadier Guards with theirs, of course, which has all of their battle honours on. I believe that's Captain Emoji Law holding that. And the King's Royal Hussars, which has their regimental crest in the middle, surrounded by all of the various battle honours. And the same with the Parachute Regiment as well. With Arnhem 1944, which I was talking about earlier, with the Operation Market Garden, the Normandy landings featured on there as well. So quite a lot of honours for a relatively new regiment in the grand scheme of things. But very played an essential role during various conflicts, and of course notably the Falkland Islands as well, which I do believe is one of their other battle honours. The Blues and Royals also having served in the conflict, who also play their role as light armoured reconnaissance these days, and have typically had an armoured role throughout their history, when the traditional cavalry warfare was replaced. Now the various armed forces will be put into shoulder arms. Now this is where they will then transition their rifle from the slope position to carrying it in the shoulder, like demonstrated here by the Grenadier Guards and the Royal Navy behind them. You will inevitably get someone who is AFK, or multiple summons who are AFK, or perhaps just completely oblivious, and you can usually tell who they are, but generally speaking, there's quite a lot of people who are here for once, which is good. Now they're being told to ground their arms. Now they will then put their weapons systems on the floor, which is of course the SE80A3 or L85A3, and they will be grounded onto the floor, which we can see with the King's Royal Hussars have demonstrated such. I can hear the household cavalry in the distance. We have the lifeguards joining the parade from the rear, followed by the Bluesing Royals. Which has been sort of picked up from the rear by the regimental corporal major. And they will then sort of form a nice picture behind the rest of the armed forces as such. And we can get quite a nice shot of that indeed. Very impressive turnout from across the armed forces, I might say, especially the King's Royal Hussars and Parachute Regiment have got quite a lot there indeed, and the Household Cavalry as well, with its 2 regiments across its size, shall we say. But it is very impressive procession so far. Generally there's sort of hiccups of one sort or another, but so far it's been pretty much seamless. I mean, the Jubilee back in November was quite impressive, but this, I think, might even surpass that. This is very impressive indeed. So whoever's been organising this, which will be, there's usually one person behind it with a team surrounding them. Very well done to you indeed, and of course anyone else who's been involved in that, whether that be people instructing drills, soldiers for turning up, or anyone, officers involved in the planning. It's all gone pretty much like clockwork, and it's resulted in this fantastic picture that we have here. And of course the developers as well, who put all the effort into the various bits and pieces, and everybody involved in the Westminster service earlier as well. It really is quite a fantastic occasion, and certainly quite a spectacle indeed. The envy of the world is the British Armed Forces in terms of operational effectiveness and their ability to conduct quite splendid parades such as this as well. We also do have, I do believe these are the Yeoman Warders, do correct me if I'm wrong, who are sort of sat there waiting for His Majesty the King, or Sovereign's Bodyguard rather, sorry, sat there outside Buckingham Palace waiting for His Majesty to exit Buckingham Palace. And we're just going to get a little shot here of all of the various regiments and so on. It's quite a fantastic sight to see, and I have seen some very impressive racks of medals as well. Of course, that being a goal for many soldiers and so on to collect within their career. And the Lord Ghost delivering all of the commands again. He's going to command a royal salute, which will then mark the King, who will then exit Buckingham Palace after all the soldiers salute with their right hand. And the royal party has now exited Buckingham Palace, and this will be the national anthem playing as he stands there in his royal gowns, which we saw him put on earlier, surrounded by various members of the royal family and dignitaries and lords and so on, flanked by, to his right, of course, by the, or his right, or to the left of the camera, of course, the Duke of York and Prince Ishmael, and then quite a sight to behold for His Majesty, indeed, on such a fantastic day for him. What a sight indeed! All these great servicemen and servicewomen who protect our great nation at all times around the clock. They will then be commanded to drop their arms down, And I do believe they will then be commanded to remove their headdress, where they will then give 3 cheers to His Majesty the King, and then replace it and so on and so forth. For those of you who watch the Jubilee or any previous coronation, you will be very much well versed with how this works. There we go, the obligatory command there for the headdress to be removed, which will slowly come off. And you now get to see who's needs some treatment for the hair. There's quite a few baldies here, so we've got some pretty high cortisol individuals here, but we do love our bald community within the UK. But yes, lots of fantastic hairstyles indeed, and moustaches. I will say I do appreciate a good tash, as the previous deputy chairman of the Bath Tash Club. Now the Hip Hip Hooray will be sounded, where all the various servicemen and women will cheer His Majesty as he enters his reign as the king. And obviously the household cavalry have to maintain their helmets because, well, they're on a horse and they're holding a sabre, so not much you can do about that. So now the headdress will be replaced, and we'll just pan our cameras around so we can get a nice view from the rear of everything that's happening as such, so that we can really see what's going on here. It's quite a nice spectacle indeed. Wow, look at that. I think we should have pretty much everybody in there. They will then be commanded to take up their arms again, and will then proceed from there. Obviously, His Majesty the King, we can see over in the distance, watching all of this going on and his various cheers and so on. It's been quite a long day for His Majesty, indeed, and he's probably quite relieved for it to be slowly coming to a close now, and he can go and probably wash it down with whatever alcoholic beverage he prefers the most, or it might be a non-alcoholic, I don't know, quite frankly. But they will now take up their weapons, which are of course in slope arms, where it is held in the position for a marching, all similar activities they might do. They're going to do an outwards turn, which means they will then turn their separate ways, and they're going all over the place. I'm not quite sure where this goes from here. I haven't quite seen this sort of spectacle. I'm assuming they're all going to march off, which I don't think has ever quite been done before. So this is quite the coronation indeed. Of course, all the officers and warrant officers will have to assume their respective places, either at the front or the rear of their formation. The Grenadier Guards leading off to the left there, headed by Captain Sophie Williams, of course. Then Royal Marines look quite eager to follow on from them. The Royal Navy using the marching tool, which has proved frustrating to get everybody aligned with in the past. The Life Guards overtaking the Blues and Royals, as if they're in the Formula 1 over there. And each of the various contingencies will then head their separate ways, whilst His Majesty watches on from the well, it's not really a balcony, the canopy, I suppose, at the rear of Buckingham Palace and the gardens. And the parade will then lead off, very much coming from sort of similar direction they came from, and the Royal Air Force looks as if it wants to depart. The standard bearers splitting ways, of course, where they appear to be taking up position, facing outwards in the same direction as His Majesty. So I'm not entirely sure where they're going from there, but let's just bring the camera in a bit. There we go, that's quite a nice scene with His Majesty and all of his various standard bearers and entourage and lords and so on surrounding him, and the Sovereign's bodyguard who have been standing behind him as such, and he does seem to be wanting to move. Oh no, he's marking time for some reason, I'm not quite sure. we go. The household cavalry are peeling off in their own direction. Now, I do think the reason the King's Royal Hussars is facing in this direction is they are due to be giving a ceremonial gun salute, which will employ the use of these old artillery cannons in the background. The Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force and the Parachute Regiment heading their own separate ways. They are doing a sort of wheel of 180 degrees, a wheel being precisely what is happening. This is effectively when a marching troop goes around a corner. So they're doing a bit of a U-turn on themselves there. I'm not quite sure what's happening with the RAF. That's a bit of an interesting way of doing it. Some of the Royal Navy as well, but there we are. The household cavalry seem to have formed up in the distance somewhere, so I think we all seem to be forming up again. I presume the Grenadier Guards and Royal Marines will then be facing inwards, and I think this seems to be the plan. I think the Royal Air Force seem to be forming up over there, the Royal Navy over there, the Parachute Regiment I presume are forming up there, and then that will sort of clear the way for the gun salutes to ceremoniously happen, and I think that's what the current movement is. Inwards turn. See that I was correct. So they should all turn to face inwards. That was quite a interesting move. I've never seen this before, so this is certainly new. For a coronation, I was not at the King Alexander one, so I don't know if they did this for that, but it's certainly a first to me anyway, and I've been to various coronations. I think done was I King George's one? I can't remember. I think I was. I was within the household cavalry during the time of King Robert's coronation. King Edward's coronation, I was within the Grenadier Guards and was the pallbearers for the funeral of King Robert, but King Alexander, I was not there for that. I was there for his Jubilee, of course, providing coverage on William's media, and now I'm here for the coronation of King Louis, who is being quite a prominent member of the royal family for the last 2 years, since his sort of birth into it, I suppose you could say, or joining of it. I don't know, but he's been quite a prominent royal over the years, and has certainly stepped up into his role as king, following quite a long service of various different roles across the nation, many of which he's now had to sort of depart, such as his time as a parliamentary administrator, for example. But now he will step into his role as king, eager to continue the legacy of previous monarchs, I'm sure. And something does tell me that I wonder if his reign may be quite similar to that of King Robert, who many will regard as quite a strong king of recent kings gone by, I suppose. Quite an advocate for role play, but not in a weird way, I do assume so. But we do, of course, have various lords and so on there, and the first Secretary of State, Adapted Frost, on the end, who was also previously served as Chancellor of the Exchequer in the previous government, quite a prominent national politician. And we're just going to pan the camera. Remainder of King's Royal Hussars stand fast. So this is coming from Verzi, who is I believe the commanding officer of the King's Royal Hussars. I think he's a lieutenant colonel, judging by his uniform. I need to get his proper view of the pips there. Yeah, lieutenant colonel, I do. But like major. He's got one crown there. So Major Verzi, commanding the battery section, so coming from all sorts of different directions. But what is effectively going to happen, folks, is these various soldiers will then take post at their guns, where they will fire their artillery shells off in a ceremonious gun salute for His Majesty the King. And this is a multi-man job. You need someone to, I think it's a 3-man crew for each gun. You will have a commander, I suppose, calling the shots. someone firing and then someone loading the weapon system or artillery piece, if you will. Sort of in a nice little arrow formation there. Now the regimental sergeant major, I believe, oh no, is he the regimental sergeant? He looks like a warrant officer class 2 actually to me. I think he's I think that could be inept logistics. I think he looks like him anyway. I don't know if he's within King's Royal Hussars, but again, somebody I've served along in both the Household Cavalry and the Grenadier Guards. And they will shortly be moving over. Now you can see the remainder of the King's Royal Hussars dressing over to sort of fix the spacings following the dedicated battery falling out. Well, they will then fire the artillery shots ceremoniously, and we should probably move our cameraman over out of the way of that so he doesn't get his head blown off. But quite a spectacle indeed. These are going to be firing off, and it's going to look very impressive. And it's quite a unique feature of the King's Royal Hussars. It's not only are they an armoured regiment, but they always provide ceremonial gun salutes. They did so for King Alexander's Jubilee within these grounds, and they will do so for King Louis. Now, unfortunately, the last time I didn't really get to watch the gun salute since I was sort of busy covering the main procession itself, and it was all going off at once. But this time, I am able to show everybody the gun salute happening. Which is great. So it's just a waiting game. There's a common phrase within the military known as hurry up and wait, and this is very much an instance of that. It's all go, 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 and then you're waiting on somebody or something to do something. So that is currently where we are, folks. I think we're waiting for the King's Royal Hussars to finish dressing. Now, of course, the King asking them to aim at Croydon, where I'm sure the people of Croydon will not be too happy about that, but oh well. Now the King's Royal Hussars B battery will then assume position, or troop rather. I'm not too familiar with artillery terminology for drill. All the different regiments have slightly different commands, but they are being brought to attention, having been stood at ease, and then they will take posts. This is, again, not something a practice I'm particularly familiar with. Obviously, I've never served in the King's Royal Hussars, but I've observed, so I'll offer. It's quite self-explanatory, a lot of the commands as well, generally. So we have our man who is sort of aiming and firing the artillery piece, and then our loader as well there, and all of the various artillery guns will be doing the same thing. Now, folks, this is what a gun looks like. Okay, when we talk about guns, this is a gun. Okay, not a rifle. A lot of people confuse rifles for guns, but when you talk about a gun, you're talking about this. So that's what it is. Okay. Now they will be sort of loaded, and they will fire off pretty much one by one. I think we're going to be starting from this end by the looks of things. So they'll be commanded to fire, and one by one they will fire off to the end. They've all been pointed upwards, and will be aiming their sort of blank ceremonial rounds up into the air. Meanwhile, everybody else will be likely wiggling their toes and so on to keep blood flowing whilst they're stood there for ages on end. Hopefully they all went to the toilet beforehand. Unlike, I'd like to say unlike Dean, but he did, so he was there for so long he had to sort of go again, as it were. But we are just waiting now, folks, on the artillery, or King's Royal Hussars rather, they're not the artillery, to fire off their shells. Of course, a shell being what you arm an artillery piece with. And then we shall continue coverage from that point onwards. This being number 1 gun, being commanded to fire off. This one here. Number 2 gun will follow that. As we can see over there, with the commander at the rear giving the discretion, and that will shortly be firing off. Now, there we go, rather loud. I do hope we've all got air defenders. Well, anybody in the immediate vicinity has air defenders. From my little media tent, it is quite loud indeed. And number 4, which will be. We'll go for a nice little cinematic shot of the various barrels of as they fire off. Number 2 will then fire off as such, and then number 3 will be following on from that. And you can basically get the gist of this, folks, as to how this process goes. I don't know how many rounds of it they do. I'm assuming 2 or 3, or we could be here for quite some time. But yeah, and I'm not sure if there's a fly past after this or not. Generally with these things there is, but I'm not sure, not always. So we shall wait for them all to fire off as such. Number 2 gun going again. So yeah, it does look, folks, like it's going to be 3 rounds. There are 4 guns there as well. Oh, we're going again. Okay, I've just been told by none other than Frankie Muggerby that there will be a fly pass, so thanks for that. We will be covering that as well. So the RAF doing that as such. Which will presumably follow after the gun salute. Now, what happens is there'll be a little gap whilst the RAF go and take off from the various air bases across the UK. People living along the way may even be seeing them flying over now, of course. They do have to come all the way up from Lincolnshire, where the majority of the bases are, and of course RAF Lossiemouth up in Scotland. Many aircraft based as well. And we're going again by the looks of things. This could be several rounds, I suppose. End of mission, okay. That's the end of that. So they will stop firing the rounds, having completed the gun salute, and they will now sort of put the artillery guns away. So this is their procedure for doing that. Well, they'll presumably have to check that it's all clear and made safe and all the rest of it, and one by one they seem to be departing their artillery pieces and heading back to their initial little wedge position, like such. I think we can safely move the camera down. Oh, and pan around to give you a little shot of the King's Royal Sars there. We're going to move the camera back a little bit to have all four of them there. Oh. With, of course, His Majesty the King in the background, watching on as his gun salute happens for his coronation. Quite a busy day indeed. There's a countdown. I'm not sure what this is for. Presumably something. Just try and close that. I've had fun today, folks, trying to close all these little... Oh, it's gone. Trying to close all these little boxes in FreeCam, which isn't the easiest without a visible mouse. Earlier in the Westminster Abbey, we had all the little please stand boxes. Oh, there's another one. I'm not sure what these are for. Let's try and pan over and see if we can get a better view of what's going on. But there we go. That's the King's Royal Hussars. Oh, you got a... I don't suppose we have the Red Devils or anything all airdropping in. But we have just had a giant target appear. So I'm not entirely sure what this is, what purpose this target serves, but it's here. And we'll shortly see what it's doing. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, we've had one man parachute in. I don't know if there's more to follow, but I think he's from the Red Devils, which is of course the parachute regiment's aerial display team for parachuting and the rest of it. I'm not sure if we've got any others coming. Oh, there's another one. There we go. There they are. They're all dropping out with their red smoke coming up behind them. That's quite a scene, or quite a sight indeed. And they're all dropping out there, and they're going to form up behind their sort of leader there at the front. Again, world-renowned parachutists, already from a very elite regiment. They very much form the display team. And this is something I haven't seen before. I was not expecting to see that. So they really are pulling out all the stops on this coronation parade. I've never quite seen anything like it, but it is really quite something for those involved. So, wow, very impressed indeed. Every coronation seems to get that a little bit bigger, and they will then fall out and make their way off the scene, marching over. Now His Majesty will then head back inside to the Buckingham Palace alongside his entourage, where they will then head up to the balcony, presumably ready to watch the fly past happen, which will presumably be coming over at some point. We will move our cameras upwards, but we cannot see any aircraft currently coming over, so we'll just pan over and give a nice little view of the sort of grounds here of Buckingham Palace Gardens, where there is many soldiers lined up today, folks. That is quite the spectacle. Exceptional attendance around it. I think it has slowly dwindled as people have to depart for whatever reason. But there we go, folks. That's the picture there, and His Majesty being driven off into the distance there. I'm not entirely sure where he's going, to be honest. Oh, he's doing a little trip. We do have the Metropolitan Police providing security as well. I probably shouldn't have given their position away, but unfortunately the drone did do that. Now His Majesty, I see, he's having a little drive-by, a little review of the troops as such, by the looks of things. as he goes round the rear of the soldiers. The horses are it's 1982. Wow. If anybody got that reference, do let me know. But yeah, there he is making his way around the back of the procession, or the formed up troops, I suppose, the parade, making his way near to me, I think. Oh, we're flying. It's the Harry Potter car. They've got nope. His Majesty seems to have been ditched in the woods. Oh dear. And all the artillery pieces have been... Oh, no, they're back. I don't know what's going on with them. Oh, they're going again. Being towed away by the... Yeah, they towed them away. But again, quite the spectacle, folks, indeed. I have never seen a procession quite as big as that, it must be said. We will follow the royal car as he drives around at quite a exceptional speed indeed. I hope His Majesty's got a seatbelt on, because quite frankly, I think he's going to hit... Oh, no, he's okay. And the various regiments will likely dismiss from this point where they are formed up. But it's not all over, folks, yet, because I do believe that we still have the Royal Air Force to go and give their a fly past, if my informant is correct. RAF fly past, yep, that is what's happening. Thanks for confirming that. So, folks, I'm not sure how soon that's going to be until that comes, but that has been quite the spectacle indeed so far. I've never seen anything like it, I'll be honest. We've had some great coronation processions over the years, but I think that really is one to top it off. I think every time it seems to get better, but this will be the point where the various officers will then debrief their soldiers from their performance, and the pictures will be taken and so on and so forth. And we will shortly be expecting the Royal Air Force to be conducting their flypast, so I will send my drone onwards and upwards to see if we can spot any planes, which I do not currently see. So we'll make our way over to the Mall and see if we can see His Majesty appear on the balcony, where he'd probably have to appear first before we can even think about seeing anything coming over from the skies. So we'll just move our camera over this way. And that, of course, folks, is where he will be making his appearance soon. Oh, we got the music going off again. And the troops will be dismissed. So we're going to go back over to the little media tent whilst we await such things to happen. But yeah, that was quite something. To all of those involved, of course. Well done for it. It's been quite the parade. So whoever's organised all of this, they're going to sleep well tonight. I'll tell you that much. It's preparation that goes into these sort of things is truly commendable, to be honest, and a lot of thought and planning will have gone into it. You know, everything from rehearsals to just general drill sessions by the NCOs and so on, to the planning and coordination, to the liaising with different service members, to people being difficult, to the none other than Dial Demodone, the owner of Britain's finest newspaper, making his little waves in the background there of our cameras, and dancing as well. We've got a little disco going on. But yeah, it's been truly an amazing day, folks. I have been thoroughly impressed. And it's not over yet. We still have the RAF flypast. So if you'd like to see that, please do stay tuned with us. You will probably have to sit through me yapping a little bit further, so I do apologise if you've grown bored of me yet, but you still have to put up with me for a little bit longer as we continue this. I'm certainly going to have to drink a lot of water after this, because bloody hell, I've got quite a dry voice currently, or dry mouth currently. But we can see the picture being taken in the background. So the pictures in the armed forces always takes longer than it should do. Honestly, from experience, that may or may not be due to potential, politicians photobombing. Definitely not. Nothing of the sort. I could never dream of such behaviours. Definitely not. No, I've never done that before. Apparently, I've just been given word the flypast has been cancelled and replaced by what appears to be the Zelensky plane, if anybody knows what I'm referring to. So I think that's the end of that. Well, in that case, folks, thank you all for watching. Oh, we've got my security services. Thank you very much for dealing with that. But yeah, there we go, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in to tonight's coverage of the Coronation, both the service and the... Oh, fucking... Oh, God. Okay, get rid of that. We'll cut the cameras. We do not want that on broadcast, folks. Oh, here's the flypast. There we go. That's something to distract from it. There we go. That's the RAF flypast. That's what I meant by the Zelensky planes. They've all shrunk. But yeah, there we go, folks. That was that for today's Coronation. So thank you all for... Oh, I think they've just crashed the server by deleting Buckingham Palace. So it's back. There we go, folks. Before any further chaos happens, as always at the end of these things, I will bring it to a close. So thank you all for watching, both the parade and the service. Thanks to all of those involved. And with that, thank you all for watching BBC News, and thank you to Dean earlier for his coverage of the service. I've been Adrian J. Williams here, contracted in from Williams TV, providing you coverage of the parade here from Buckingham Palace Gardens. So thank you very much. Have a lovely rest of your evening, early rest of your Easter weekend, and we will see you all whenever the next BBC broadcast is. Well, I probably